the ways when I started podcasting was that you get ads, right? You get sponsors and you get ads, and those, and generally speaking, if you have a small show, maybe like even if you have a small show, it's really hard to get sponsors. But if you did get sponsors, they're paying you $30 forever. That's it. You get $30. That ad lives in your episode forever. And then if your episode ends up getting 2 million listeners in 3 years' time, they still get that audience and they pay $20, right? So it's not like a lucrative business. So if you have, say you have 100 listeners, right, or 10 listeners, is like a small amount. How does somebody approach monetizing that podcast? And then I assume we're not talking about ads.
So my question is not really how can you monetize your podcast, but my question for you is how can you serve those people that are listening? So for some podcasters, that means that selling something, so an online course or an ebook or a coaching program. But I think it's about your audience. What do they want from you? Because you're giving out this free content, how can you serve them even more? How can you give them a bigger transition, or I don't know, help them with a transformation, or get them closer to a goal that they have, or to solving a problem that they have? So that is for podcasters who are open to make this a business, who want to make a full-time income with podcasting. Then this is the question to ask yourself. If you are a podcaster and you just do this as a hobby, that's completely fine, and you don't need to have the whole business around the podcast. It is the most profitable way to monetize your podcast, I believe. But if you just want to keep podcasting and just want some income, but it's not that, but it's like, it doesn't have to be your full-time gig, then I think sponsorships can be interesting if you make a brand deal with a sponsor. So like you said, if you just have an ad, you just add it to your show and it just lives there forever. Yeah, it's not really profitable. But if you have a very niche podcast, this works so well, then you can reach out to a brand and you can say, hey, I have this podcast and I have this super niche audience, which is exactly the audience that you're trying to reach. And I don't just have this show, I don't just have these listeners, but I also have an Instagram and an email list. You add that all in there. Because if you send out an email to your list saying, hey, I have a new episode out, these people will also see or hear the ad or see the name of the sponsor. So that also counts. And then you can negotiate a deal. And most profitable is to negotiate a deal for 6 months or a year, so that you don't have to do that for every episode again. You can do like a trial episode and then do a 6 month or a year if you're new, but I think that could be interesting for podcasters. If you just want to keep podcasting, don't worry about all the business stuff and creating digital products or coaching people or whatever, I totally understand if that is not your thing, but then this is also a really good opportunity. And to also make it profitable. It can really be a win-win also for your listeners. If you choose a brand that really aligns with your brand and with your listeners, then it can be a win-win-win.